Good evening, and thank you for joining us, Aaron. It seems like the hockey season just wrapped up. Did it not just wrap up?
Well, it did for a couple of teams locally, the Lloydminster Bobcats and the Bonnyville Pontiacs, and they've already started, their spring camps. But the Doyle Cup is still going on, and the RBC Cup still has to go too. So it seems like it's early, but I guess it's not too
time for
early.
spring camps,
Exactly.
I guess. Gerard, pretty wild weekend. What are we looking forward for the rest of the week?
Well, for the rest of the week, we're looking forward to some of those temperatures going back up, but we still got some precipitation later on this evening to deal with. The sun has been fighting to come out, to be quite honest, but in between all of that, we've seen a mix of flurries. It's been that kind of day. So we're dealing with a 50% humidity reading. The winds pick back up out of the west at 21, and let's compare to what's happening in the Lakeland region. You're seeing a +6 down from a +7 earlier on today. The Battleford's got up to +5 and enjoyed the better of the sunshine. In terms of later on, we'll find out about that. Jacob, back to you.
Federal elections just over 2 weeks away, but candidates are wondering who's actually going to bother to vote. In the 2008 election, voter turnout was just over 50% on both sides of the border city. And as Whitney Stinson reports, this time around, people are coming up with lots of reasons to stay at home again instead of casting their ballots.
Political analysts are calling it the meanest election they've ever seen.
People are just getting tired of all the attack ads, and I guess the campaigns seem to be personally focused rather than issues focused. People want to hear about the issues. They want to hear about something positive for a change. They want to be able to see what the future looks like.
Some people we talked to are feeling disengaged.
Because the Conservatives have such a majority.
I really don't care either way. I have no interest in politics, no interest in the election, could care less.
Election that's going to cost the taxpayers money to tell me something I already know. I'm not interested in that.
That's the main danger of being in a riding where only 50% of the voters are offering their voice. If this election falls again to less than 50%, analysts say there really isn't a democracy here anymore.
And somebody's going to take the election and end up in power, and people are going to say, hey, whatever happened?
So what will it take to engage residents in this riding again?
They could get out more and maybe talk to us.
All they know is run each other down. Why don't they do something creative once?
Be more interesting. It just is, oh, well, we got this great plan, we got this great bill, but who even understands what you're talking about?
Wakefield says the problem is twofold. Politicians aren't reaching the public, but the public isn't making an effort to learn either.
People really need to do some background checking, some work, and form an opinion on their own, and then that becomes their opinion, and they should vote accordingly.
If residents do choose to stay home on May 2nd, the other 50% of the voting community says, don't come crying to them.
If you don't vote, you can't complain because you haven't put anything into getting the right person in that you would like in.
Residents should have received their voter information cards in the mail last week, but for some potential voters, they see these as junk mail. If you haven't received your voter information card, feel free to contact Elections Canada before April 26th. Advance polls open on the 22nd. Whitney Stinson, UCAP News.
The number of false or abandoned 911 calls made to the local response center in the last few months is alarming. In response to the problem, Lloydminster RCMP have started a media campaign to raise awareness about the issue. Kathy Lee has the details.
Working in the pod area for 4 years, Chelsea Pocha has taken a fair number of false emergency calls.
Yes, there's quite a bit of false calls, whether it be children playing with, say, pay phones or babies playing with cell phones that their parents give them.
Since the Lloydminster detachment receives calls for fire, ambulance and police, false calls can bog down the response process for everyone.
It is frustrating because we have to spend all this time when there could be other emergencies that we need to spend more time on that are real.
If it's false or abandoned, then we have to follow up and make sure that everything's okay with where that call is coming from. So that's, again, that does create a lot of work.
With the launch of the 911 media campaign, RCMP are hoping the problem will get better.
It's just to raise the educational awareness for people in the city, what 911 is for and when they should be using it, and to also educate their kids.
Because in the last few months, the number of false or abandoned calls have doubled.
In February, we had approximately 500 calls to 911, and half of those were false or abandoned. And we've seen that number probably grow by 50% in the last few months.
While the main goal is to educate parents and kids about 911 dialing, Callis also reminds the public to use the general line for non-emergencies.
For example, your car got broken into, calling 911 isn't the number to be calling. It can be done on the non-emergency line.
Kathy Lee, Newcap News.
Today, the Lloydminster Rotary Club welcomed back a handful of local students returning from a trip to Kelowna. The goal of the trip was to educate the students about the different aspects of the tourism industry.
I was pretty excited. I really was wanting to go to Kelowna to see the tourism industry and get a grasp on everything that goes on out there.
During the 4-day trip, the students learned ways to attract visitors to our city.
In Alberta and Saskatchewan, we are more spread out location-wise between tourist destinations. You know, advertising and promotion of what you have in your community is a big part, and as Lloydminster being Canada's only border city, we have to advertise what we have.
Kelly hopes to take what he learned on the venture and put it towards his future in the tourism industry. Snow and ice didn't stop Lloydminster residents from getting out to the 2011 Enerflex MS Walk fundraiser this weekend. After paths were cleared at Bud Miller Park, the event kicked off and officials say there was a great turnout. Kathy Lee has the details.
It was a chilly one, but hundreds of locals came out to show their support in the fight against a disease that's touched many lives.
It's very important to me because my cousin has MS, as well as several of my friends have MS.
There has been a few people that I know that has been diagnosed with MS that I never knew about. Finding that out within the past year or two, it's scary because it is a lot of young people that are being diagnosed.
Despite anticipated concerns of low numbers for this year's event, the turnout was quite the opposite.
Right now we've got about 375 people in the room, which is great. As you know, our numbers were a little bit low, and now they've just picked up like crazies. Hi. Hi.
And the weather wasn't too much of a problem.
We had a little bit of issues with starting late because of the weather and the ice. The city came out and they did a great job of clearing the paths. So otherwise we're great.
While the total amount is still not yet determined, one participant feels the community pulled through generously.
It's been very warm. Obviously, coming out of a recession here, people are a little more willing to help with charities and stuff like that, which is good to see.
And those they're helping couldn't be more grateful.
Made me feel really happy. It made me feel that maybe people do understand what MS is.
The event may be done today, but the fight doesn't stop here.
I plan on still continuing fundraising over the next few weeks, trying to get as much as I can.
Kathy Lee, Newcap News.